This is TWiT.
All right, if you've been on the internet in the past couple of weeks, which you probably have if you're listening to this podcast, then you may have seen or heard something about NFT, those three letters together. Maybe you even heard something about non-fungible tokens, or maybe all of this is brand new to you. In any of those cases, I was incredibly curious about what has practically become a meme at this point, and wanted to get someone on the show to talk about NFTs, to explain this to me, to explain this to all of you, and to help us better understand what's going on here. And it turns out somebody was writing about NFTs over on Medium's 1.0 publication. Joining us today, Lance Ulanoff. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes. So I think the best thing to do is to start by explaining what a non-fungible token is and why people should care about it. Can you do that for us?
Well, it's the hot new thing. You got to care about it. But yeah, so it's related to cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and the thing about digital art, right? Anything in the digital space is that you can copy it pretty much endlessly, right? I take a photo, I put it on the computer, I send it to you, you send it to somebody else. There are dozens of copies of it, and they all have the same or zero value. But what if digital art a digital copy of a piece of art could have intrinsic value because it's considered one of a kind? Or one of five, and that's it. Because every piece of art that these artists are creating, this digital art, is assigned a token on the blockchain. So it becomes rare, it becomes collectible, it becomes special. And collectors, are starting to put real money, they'll put money into a digital wallet for cryptocurrency and then use that to basically invest in these collectibles, these non-fungible tokens, digital art, and then they own them. And maybe the value goes up. Maybe the value goes up because the value of cryptocurrency has gone up. We've seen how in the last couple of years, Bitcoin's value has gone through the roof. So it takes it outside of the traditional tangible sphere. It takes it outside the traditional analog currency sphere and puts it in a new space. The reason I wrote my story is because I was kind of like you and maybe some other people. I just kept hearing about it, but didn't entirely understand what everyone was talking about.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I was feeling about things. It was not understanding what everybody was talking about, and a little bit of FOMO for sure, wanting to get in on whatever it was, whatever an NFT was, and I think even more than that, hearing some folks kind of just making jokes about non-fungible this and non-fungible that. So I immediately looked for the Vox explainer to try and figure out what was going on.
The idea that people are getting rich off of this, maybe the sort of flashpoint for a lot of people was the news about Grimes making $6 million through her digital art. And it was through this system. It was through Nifty Gateway, which is a site that is a clearinghouse for NFTs. And they have these things called drops. So when artists of note like Grimes, who's an electronica music artist, and also she's dating Elon Musk and the mother of his child, but they had scheduled, they were going to do this drop of her new art, which was this nymph warrior, which is basically a baby wielding a weapon. They sold almost immediately. She made all this money, $6 million. She's donating some of it to a sort of carbon footprint charity. But that really kind of like, why? I mean, this is a really difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around because, you're telling me that each piece of digital art is tied to a token, and the whole point of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is that these tokens are immutable. They can't be. There's a limited number of them. This is a specific number, and that's it. But at the same time, I'm like, it's a piece of art I look at on the screen. What if I take a screenshot of that? What does that mean? Now, a lot of this art is more than, in fact, quite a bit of what I saw. It's not static art. It's 3D. It's animated. It has a music or soundtrack behind it. And Grimes obviously makes her own soundtracks, so that can make it more special. But what about things like the moment in a basketball game? Like, I've heard of sports moments being turned into NFTs. I still can't entirely understand how that works. I've seen trading cards for sneakers. I've seen Pokemon style cards. I've just seen all sorts of stuff, and some of the art is great and some of it's not. But because there's this sort of rush right now, that people are super excited about it. There's a lot of money flooding into it, speculation really, without the sense of where we're going to be 6 months, a year, 2 years from now in the NFT space. Is it going to be something that has staying power? Is it as valuable, for example, as, I have collectibles in my house. I have Star Wars collectibles, Star Trek collectibles, things that I think have value. And I feel like that because it's a physical object, it'll at least hold some of that value. But I don't know how the world of digital NFT collectibles really holds a true value, because the value is, of course, tied not only to what the artist has created, the quality of it and their notoriety, their position, but the value of cryptocurrency.
And crypto. So I guess what I'm trying to understand here is what you just said right there was kind of the crux of my question, is like, where exactly is this value derived from? I get it, the value of the art itself and the value of cryptocurrency. Is that the value of cryptocurrency, like the market in general, or is it a particular cryptocurrency? Like, hey, Bitcoin, like if you buy this, it translates to X Bitcoin, which if you sold today is worth this. Like, it's not an apples to apples comparison, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, Ethereum is in the mix. Bitcoin is in the mix, and I know that there are other kinds of people like generate their own tokens within the blockchain space, and I can't even keep track. I've been talking to someone about because this is not the first time that blockchain technology is being connected to the collectible space, because the whole thing about that is identifying what is both rare and real, right? Because in a collectible, you can have fakes, counterfeits, and that can be very upsetting if you think you've had. For example, I've noted this case of people going online and they post on Twitter this maybe a poster, a Star Wars poster with Mark Hamill's signature on it, and they put it up there and they ask Mark Hamill, did you do this? Yours? He goes, no, I've never signed that before. That's not me. And then they're crushed. Now imagine if whatever you get has a token assigned to it, and that token is basically, that's the thing that says this is the real thing. So that's happening in the real collectible space, and now it's happening in this space of digital art. But the thing that's crazy is this isn't stuff that has some intrinsic value, like it was connected to a historical event, a great show that we loved or something like that. It's being created right now. People are creating these NFTs right now and saying they'll have this intrinsic value later. They have, they'll have, and then it's a question of what kind of cryptocurrency you're connecting it to. And I don't know much about how those values go. All I know is that they've generally been going up in recent years as more speculators come in. But again, this is like another facet of a very complex diamond. Because really in the whole crypto space, and when we talk, basically a lot of us have started by talking about Bitcoin, and many of us really never quite understood it, because I think for traditionalists, people who come from sort of the old world where so much was analog, it's the most difficult thing for them to understand. This is yet another sort of thread of difficulty, trying to understand why anyone would pay thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for a digital image of a sneaker that someone once wore in 2010.
Yeah, and I guess that's I draw a comparison to, so when I was a kid, I would get, say, baseball cards, and there would be, you know, baseball cards from one brand and baseball cards from another brand. And these days, the rookie card of a player from one brand might be worth a bunch of money and someone buys it, but the rookie card of another brand is worthless, is valueless. And Beanie Babies, another example. And the one thing is that, yes, there's this physical connection to this item. You have this physically and you can grasp it and say that, you know, this is yours. But as you pointed out, you know, what if you ended up buying this Beanie Baby at a yard sale, and it ended up being one that, you know, great Uncle Stevenson made with his sewing machine, and it wasn't actually a real Beanie Baby, and so then it's not worth as much as you thought it was.
Right.
And I mean, how can we? Isn't everything that we kind of put value in? It has value because we've decided it has value.
Right.
I mean, there are other rare minerals in the earth that could be as valuable as a diamond if we chose it to be.
Look,
but
there's a couple of different things.
Chosen the diamond as one.
Right. There's a couple of different things that work there. You know, so provenance, right? You know, that how do you know the history, the background, the connection of this thing to the supposed value? That's where the token comes in with this digital stuff, because that's how you instantly know the provenance of this. Where was it created? By whom was it created? Who was it sold from to? It can never be taken back. That's something that in the collectible world we really don't have a good sense of. And that, you know, you run into situations of people having something turns out to be fake. We've all watched, you know, Antiques Roadshow and seen the people like, oh, it's my grandfather told me this, da da da, and they're like, no, it's not actually that at all. It was just, you know, it was bought at a 5 and dime somewhere. So there's that, and then the question of value, like assigning value to something. You brought up diamonds, and in my story I talk about like how people affix a value to any good, and we live in a world of relative plenty. Like, for example, we can drink pretty much as much water as we want. We have enough water for us, you know, in most places. So that gives, in wealthy societies, that gives them the ability to value something like a diamond, because a diamond has no actual intrinsic value. It's hard, yeah. We can make pretty hard stuff, you know, synthetically now. It's pretty to look at, but is it actually as valuable to us as water? Because without water, we die. Without a diamond, maybe you're a little bummed out. So, you know, the question of value is really where I started my story, because I wanted to try and understand how people end up assigning these insane values to something that has no tangible entity. You can't touch it, and is really being created almost on the fly. And the value it has is that Grimes says this is awesome. She created it, and here's a token that ensures that it is something that Grimes made and sold to you.
Yeah, and then I guess the other thing that kind of drives up value is when you've got people bidding on these different items. So even if a random artist, I was just looking at one of these NFT marketplaces, and this person is just your average everyday person who had created a little bit of an animation, and people liked it, and so they decided to, you know, everybody's voting on or bidding it up, and then suddenly it's worth a bunch of money. And you talk about value over time. I mean, do we see that as playing a role here, that while somebody's spending $20,000 on an NFT now seems to be worth something, there's in a world where suddenly only the physical items you have on your person or in your given space are things that you can, I mean, that's the thing, is it's tied to electronics, right? I mean, is there a way to I suppose maybe one of us needs to invent some sort of company that prints these non-fungible tokens into something.
Right, and then you've like circled back, like it's we're all putting our photos, right? You know, it goes from our phone, you know, directly to the cloud, and we look at it in other cloud connected devices, and we almost never print them out. And sometimes we live in fear of like, what if the cloud goes down? What if I lose my backup, and I don't have any physical record? And then maybe sometimes we'll print some out just to be safe, but most of us don't. Most of us are just trying to ingest our physical copies of stuff so we don't have to hold on to it, so we don't have to store it anymore. These things only live in the digital space, and that's probably where they'll only ever live. The question is, what happens if there's some massive blackout that lasts longer than a week, and suddenly you start to realize that you can't access all the things you paid $20,000 for? I'm not a proponent of spending that much money on any of this stuff, especially up front when we know so little about the true value of what's being done here. But I do think that there's a really interesting opportunity for upcoming artists, just like what you talked about. So my brother is actually a comic artist, and he works on Instagram and does a lot of great comic art. He has a ton of followers. And I actually talked to him about this. I said, this seems like a thing for you, because how to get people to, a like on an Instagram is not going to convert to money. This is one of the first times where you can create art and make real money on the fly, and it's kind of the power of the community that drives it. So I think there is a real opportunity for people who are creating art and trying to make a living doing that, because people say they love it, but they're not paying for it. But on the flip side, I think that consumers have to be smart, and it's not like you want to rush into this and take all of your excess money and start buying NFTs.
Right. Well, Lance, my last question for you. Any plans on selling or buying any NFTs in your future as it stands?
Look, I swear to you, one of the things I did is I started going down the rabbit hole on the Nifty Gateway to see if I could create my own account. I mean, I've been drawing my whole life. I can create, crummy artwork. Would anybody buy it? I don't know. And then I kind of was like, I have to make a video, and I didn't get so far in it, but who knows, I might go back. But I have no expectations of doing that. Certainly, am I somebody who would buy any of this stuff? Not the prices that I saw. If I could buy something I think it was the sneaker I saw, which would cost, maybe, like $5 in normal money and 0.003 Ethereum. I'm like, yeah, but the other stumbling block for a lot of people, including me, is setting up the wallet and knowing I have to take real money and connect it to cryptocurrency. And I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. I haven't made that move. Maybe I will in the future. We'll see.